Alright then lads, hello and welcome back to the first of my Euros coverage. It will be a tactical analysis video looking at Italy versus Turkey last night, where things went so wrong for Turkey and why Italy now can be considered genuine contenders for winning the Euros this year. So, we just finished the Belgium-Wales game, obviously finished 1-1. Dan James was brilliant from a United perspective. He was absolutely terrific. No idea why he got taken off. Gareth Bale was, quite frankly, really poor. Should have been him that came off. But glad that Wales got the equaliser and are still in the competition, because if they lost it today, it would be really hard for them to get out of the group. Now, let's get back. Before we get into that, we'll deal with Italy-Turkey yesterday, and let's get straight into the tactics. So, obviously, the way the game went, for the most part, Turkey had big problems getting out. They were stuck on the edge of their own box for the most part, forced to play on the counter-attack, and that was pretty much all they had to hold on to. And the main reason for that was the way they started to play. So they set up in a 4-1-4-1 formation, and in terms of their attacking play, the way they tried to build out from the back when they're in possession, so let's move the team up the pitch a little bit, they pretty much only had one tactic, which was a little bit disappointing. They seemed out of ideas for the most part, which at European Championship is not good enough. And their main technique that they were using was the ball here coming from the keeper. So what they'd do, they wouldn't bother playing short. They would just go straight from the goalkeeper to the number 9. Karaman, I believe his name was, played outside on the right wing for the most part. And the idea for that was pretty simple. They didn't have the quality to build short, so they thought they'd just go long, try and get him to win it up against Spinazzola. Make the most of the fact he's a big target man, playing wide up against a small fullback. So hopefully he can win that ball up the pitch and give him some territory. However, they had basically no success doing that, and at times Karaman was then forced to drift infield and try and win that ball from those long balls, win knockdowns, and look for Yilmaz, who was always on the shoulder. And the idea there was get the flick on, try and flick it in behind to Yilmaz, get him to run in on goal. But again, Italy dealt with it well, and Turkey barely had any success from that at all. And so, if you're a Turkey team and your one technique of playing out from the back is those long balls, and they're not working, what do you do? Well, at times they tried to build short, and as we saw for the third goal that Italy scored, all that happened was the keeper, who was not great with the ball at his feet, played that ball out, got to the Italy player, and from there, Italy finished off the chance. So every time Turkey did try and build short, it was either given away straight to Italy, or it was played right out to the fullback, who headed it straight into touch, or a poor ball into the centre-backs, who then failed to pass the ball forwards and just passed it between each other until they went wide and then lost the ball somehow. Something else Turkey were doing in possession occasionally, because Italy was setting up fairly narrow in defence, trying to press them, but also just be compact, protect the centre of the pitch, and they did a good job of doing that. And for the most part, Turkey just weren't able to get the ball in between this Italy block. So Italy was sitting in a mid-block, ready to spring and press when certain traps were met, but for the most part, Turkey just could not play that ball into the midfield. So they'd sometimes go down the wing, move it to the fullback, who'd move it down to the winger, but even then, when the winger had the ball, they couldn't move it back in field. Every time there were Italy bodies in the way, stopping that happening. Locatelli, Jorginho and Barella did a good job in that midfield. They stopped that ball coming back into a dangerous area in the midfield. And, well, the rest is history. Turkey could not do anything whatsoever. So, let's now have a quick look at the way Italy built up, and then we'll look at the way most of the game sort of panned out, with Turkey camped on the edge of their box and Italy breaking them down fairly easily. So do drop me a comment. Hello, Tayyab Anwar. Hello, mate. How are you doing? How have you found the Euro so far? How's things been with you? Obviously it's been a while since I've been live, done any of this stuff. It's good to see you on the video. So let me know how you're doing. Drop me some comments, and we'll be sure to discuss anything that you guys want to see. So in terms of Italy building up from the back, they were quite often playing short to the centre-backs, and what was really impressive actually was that Locatelli and Jorginho, both of those want to sort of play. As we see for Jorginho at Chelsea, he likes to drop deep, come deep to get the ball from the centre-backs and dictate play. But both of them were really disciplined in this game. There was at all times there was at least one of them, if not both, beyond the midfield for Turkey. And what that meant was that when the Turkey players were thinking about going to press the Italy centre-back, so Yilmaz was often pressing by himself, but the midfield couldn't go because the Italy players were behind them. So if they went out here and started trying to press the centre-backs, quick pass into Spinazzola and back into midfield, and they're suddenly all taken out of the game. So because of their positional discipline there from Locatelli and Jorginho, Turkey players had to sit in, and that gave the Italy defence so much time on the ball. That let them pick nice passes, and also, in Chiellini's case here, what that let him do was make a few nice carries up the pitch into midfield to distribute the ball. And as soon as you get a player moving at pace upfield, it commits the Turkey defenders, and then you start to create havoc further up the pitch. So it was class from Italy the way they set up, and Turkey were just not able to handle it. Now, moving forward, when they're building out, they did use a 4, but as they got further up the pitch, Italy's game plan was, in general, push Spinazzola as high and wide up that pitch as you possibly can. And to accommodate that, it was more of an asymmetric system. So Chiellini came round a little bit, Bonucci shifted over, and Florenzi sort of sat back, and he was a bit more conservative on that side than Spinazzola was on the left. So what we often saw then was Turkey struggling to deal with it. So they dropped back into their shape. Spinazzola had the freedom of the left flank on that side, and then Turkey would find that their game plan was protect the centre of the pitch, be it as narrow and as compact as possible defensively. So they'd drop off. Normally the defence would just end up just inside their own box. Yokuslu in defensive midfield was about there. Italy players pushing up, and the midfield was here, and that was the first problem for Turkey. When they got into their defensive shape, the gap here between this midfield 4 that I'm currently dealing with here, this line here, and this defensive 4 here was too big. And the problem that led to was that obviously Immobile's in here occupying the centre halves, but what it meant was that it was only Yokuslu dealing with all of this gap in between the two lines. And that was just far too much work for one player. So what it meant was that as Spinazzola got more advanced down that left side, he was able to easily pass that ball into Insigne. And because Spinazzola was holding the width, Insigne was able to come inside and operate in these pockets. And because Yokuslu was sitting in the centre trying to just hold that defence, sit in front of his centre-backs, all it meant was that Spinazzola or even Locatelli at times could just play that ball into Insigne, and he's suddenly receiving that ball between the lines in pockets of space. And as soon as you're doing that, you're asking questions of all these players around him. Who's going to go and close him down? And oftentimes the defence didn't want to do it because they wanted to hold their line. The midfield didn't want to do it because they were seemingly struggling for fitness. And Yokuslu, when he went to close him down, then Immobile suddenly got loads of space. So what ended up happening was that whether it's Insigne on this side or Barella on this side, because Berardi was playing a lot wider, Insigne and Barella both had spaces in the pockets. They were finding the ball in between the lines, and they were able to link with each other, create some nice passing combinations, getting each other in on goal, and even when the ball sat up nicely for them, find shots on goal. And we saw, I think it was the second goal Italy scored, was a great shot from outside the box, deflected, and Immobile tapped it in, or saved by the keeper, Immobile tapped it in. Turkey just didn't react to this problem of having too much space between the lines. And for me, that is a massive problem with the 4-1-4-1 in general, because what you end up with is just this one player. Newcastle did it against Man United a while back, and it was the same story. You end up with one player who is not able to cover all of that space, and that just leads to the opposition having too many chances and it being far too easy for them to just cut you open at will, which is exactly what Italy were doing. Now, in terms of the tactics Italy were playing, let's have a little look at the asymmetric side of it again. So we've mentioned already how Spinazzola on the left was getting far forward all the time, and Florenzi or Di Lorenzo on the right, where they were a little bit more conservative, staying a bit deeper, sitting into that back three. Now, part of that is because of the nature of Barella on the right wing and Insigne here on the left. So Insigne's role, he loves to get in the spaces, cut inside, operate as an inverted winger, but he loves to find pockets of space. And because Spinazzola was operating out wide, he was holding the width at all times possible. Insigne was able to come in a little bit narrower and be a nuisance in those pockets. Whereas on the opposite side, Berardi doesn't necessarily want to be in those pockets. He prefers to be wide on the wing. So what that meant was it was perfect for Florenzi because he was staying a bit deeper, but he didn't need to be holding the width up top like Spinazzola was because that's where Berardi was playing naturally. So all that meant was, out of that midfield three, obviously Locatelli and Jorginho tend to play a little bit deeper, so it meant Barella could get a little bit further forward and he could be the one operating in those pockets on the right-hand side. So it was a little bit asymmetric in the way it worked, but what it meant was that you had Immobile in the middle, either side Barella and Insigne operating in the pockets of space, and Berardi and Spinazzola holding the width. So that was Italy's attacking structure, and it worked really well. Tayab Anwar says, Yilmaz was just isolated up top. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think, especially first half, the way Turkey were playing, it was really tough for Yilmaz to do much because he was just by himself, as you said. Karaman did sometimes get close to him, but again, the ball rarely stuck with them. Italy won it back quickly and were able to just get the ball back, get the ball on the ground, play forwards and play through, and get back to this sort of position where they're just camped on the edge of Turkey's box. Now, one thing I want to talk about is Manuel Locatelli. He's been linked with Manchester United quite a lot and a lot of other big clubs. Apparently, Arsenal are in for him now. And his performance yesterday was really interesting for me. I think positionally, as I've mentioned already, him and Jorginho were fantastic. The way they both held their positions beyond the Turkey midfield when Italy were playing out was fantastic, and it was really important. And it shows good tactical awareness because Locatelli prefers to play in that Jorginho role. He prefers to be that deeper line midfielder who's able to get on the ball and dictate the play. And he wasn't playing in that role, but showed good tactical awareness anyway. So that's a good sign. Also, when he had the ball in a lot of space, he was able to make some nice passes. I think in the run-up to the third goal, he made a brilliant pass into Barella, I think, which was fantastic to see. However, drawbacks to Locatelli's game. So far, what I would say is the drawback I noticed was when he's receiving the ball in these sorts of areas where Insigne is, which was sometimes he was doing because there was so little pressure on Italy, he could afford to get further forward. He's not very good at receiving the ball on the half turn and playing forwards and slipping someone in the way that Insigne is. He's also not so good positioning himself in those areas, and his close control in tight spaces isn't the best. But you could argue, if United or Arsenal are signing him, that is not the role he's going to play. He's going to play as that deeper player like Jorginho plays for Chelsea. So that's fair enough. So we've talked about Italy, we've talked about Turkey in terms of how they're playing, and we've talked about Manuel Locatelli. Is there anything else you guys want to see us talk about? Do let us know. Whilst we're doing it, Tayyip Anwar, obviously, Yilmaz isolated up top. That is the thing. Right, the other thing to talk about, fitness levels for Turkey. Absolutely horrendous. A lot of people have been talking about Turkey's dark horses, but honestly, whether it's because the Turkish league's not of the same standard, I don't know, but in that midfield, they were overrun all game. Partly at the start, as we said, it was tactical because Yokuslu was having to cover the entire space between the lines, which he just wasn't able to do when Italy had Immobile, Insigne and Barella all operating in the pockets. They were overloaded there, but also partly later in the game, in the second half, Turkey switched to more of a 4-2-3-1. They got a Cengiz Ünder on, I think, for Yazici. So Çalhanoğlu was just trying to play off a little bit off Yilmaz's head to get him a little bit closer. And you had the wingers either side, Cengiz Ünder one side and Karaman the other side, I believe. And we had the double pivots, so we had a little bit more protection. Turkey dropping a little bit deeper like that. But again, they were overrunning that midfield. What we saw so often was when Turkey were on the attack, they get a counter-attack, and the wingers and Yilmaz and quite often Çalhanoğlu were just staying up the pitch. They weren't getting back, and that was leaving these two. Normally one of them committed to the attack as well because they had to try and get something when they were 2-0 down. And what that left was just one man here protecting against all these Italy players. So it was so easy for Italy. Turkey, from a fitness point of view, were horrible, and tactically, from the coach, it was a really poor game from him. He failed to recognise the danger at first half with that one man, just Yokuslu filling that gap, and second half, he wasn't able to rectify the problem, and his changes actually just made it worse. So for everyone that said Turkey's dark horses, honestly, based on that performance, I don't see it. I think they're tactically poor, fitness-wise they're poor, and if they come up against another top team, they'll surely get blown away again. In terms of Italy's chances, personally, I think they've got a great chance of going a long way in this tournament. They've been fantastic under Mancini, and yesterday, tactically, they were exceptional. If you're looking at a club team here, you would say the pivot, or sort of the deeper midfielders of Jorginho and Locatelli. For a club midfield, that's a little bit lacking in mobility, but for international play, where it's a little bit slower, there's a little bit less tempo, a little bit lower intensity, that's absolutely fine. They can get away with that, and they can use their ball-playing skills. So I think Italy have got a great chance going a long way. They're defensively solid, as we saw yesterday. Didn't concede a single shot on target, which, whoever you're playing, that's a fantastic stat to see. And going forward, they looked able to cut open teams at will. Now, the one question mark I have over Italy is the right-hand side, really. I think a lot of their play came out from the left, but on the right, Berardi didn't seem to offer too much. He had a few nice moments, and maybe in different games where he's got more space and more time on the ball, he'll offer more things. But I wasn't as impressed with Berardi as I was with Insigne, Barella, Locatelli, and Jorginho. Immobile as well. If you've got him in your fantasy team, like I did, I captained him for yesterday, so I won't be changing my captain this week. I'll be keeping him in because he did a fantastic job, got himself a goal and an assist. Tayyip Anwar, where do I think Turkey will finish the group? So that group, I believe, it's Turkey. It's Turkey, Italy. Is Turkey, Italy, Wales, and Wales and Switzerland in that group? Tell you what, I think it's tough. I think in this, Italy are going to top the group 100%. That's guaranteed. For second place, I think it's really tough because I think both Wales and Switzerland will get a shock result in one of the games. I think Wales may well pull out a point against Turkey. I think Switzerland may well beat Turkey. So I think it's tough. I think it'll be really close for the other three teams. Probably, if I had to predict it now, if I had to call it right now, under pressure here, clearly, cheers Tayyip for that one, I would say Italy to top the group, Switzerland to come second, Turkey to come third, and Wales to just miss out, which is a shame because I do want Wales to do well. Obviously, for Dan James at United, I was so impressed with him today, and so disappointed he got taken off in the end. But yeah, that's the result I'm backing for Group A. In terms of Group B, which we're moving on to soon, we've got in Group B we have who have we got? It is Denmark, Finland, Belgium, and Russia. Belgium top the group, Denmark second, Finland third, Russia fourth. But yeah, excited for the other games today. Hope you guys have enjoyed the first couple of games of the Euros. The one thing to look out for, we're seeing a lot of 4-1-4-1. Turkey played it yesterday, Wales played it today, and look, the key tactical thing to watch out for in a 4-1-4-1 is the spaces between the two fours, the defensive four and the midfield four. Is the lone defensive mid getting overrun, that they're having to cover too many players between the lines? And if so, that is a major reason why that formation fails defensively. That's my number one tactical point so far, 4-1-4-1. Other than that, Italy are going to do well. Thanks so much for tuning into the video. If you're not following me on TikTok, go drop me a follow. If you want to get in touch with me, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok DMs, always open. And until next time, see you very soon.